Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is Monday morning, 5:30 in the morning, Mountain Standard Time, Calgary, Alberta, March 29th. I'm happy to be here. This is one child abuse survivor to another, and we're up for 15 minutes and this morning, and I'm glad you can be here. I'm glad to be here too. Just trying to wake up and have some coffee here and trying to get going here. We're looking at, I wanted to continue on with understanding crisis, and there's another section to it that I think is really interesting, and this is when CPS has to go into the home because there's been a report of child abuse. This is sort of what would happen in a sort of a best case scenario. And I think this is so interesting because really for me to look at, it's interesting because I know we had an intervention done because my brother had reported abuse and because a teacher had noticed he was wearing a turtleneck in school and it was summertime and it was covering bruises and he had bruises on his face and stuff, and the teacher took him to the nurse and he told the nurse he was afraid to go home. So then they got the authorities involved, and this is when I was really young. I mean, really young. I only remember a few bits and pieces of it because I was so young, but I remember the social workers coming with their clipboards and making notes and talking to the family, and on a kind of a, I don't know how many times they came because I can't really recall, but I remember them coming more than once and having to they would have to check me over. So I thought this was very interesting, and my family members, like, nobody talks about this, and my brothers who would really have some good information for me are gone now. So that's why I thought just take a look at this, because this is sort of what would happen if they go into a home, a CPS, and need to help a family out, and not necessarily remove the children. Obviously they didn't remove us, and maybe they should have, but that's what I think. But the thing is it's sort of what should happen in that case to help protect children, right? That's the main goal, and they don't remove them unless they feel that there's absolutely no other option, right? Because that's the thing. Otherwise, I think we would have been removed. But they must have figured that my parents were on the up and up. So that's why we're looking at this. It's so interesting, and it just kind of sort of encompasses the whole thing regarding what needs to happen so that parents don't keep abusing their children, right? And that's why we're looking at this. So you can find it at www.childwelfare.gov, and it's the Child Welfare Information Gateway, and there's all kinds of publications on there regarding child abuse, and not just CPS, but just everything to do with like child abuse and just a whole, it's just a whole assortment of all kinds of different publications on there. So it's quite interesting what you can find, and you got to go through and scroll through looking for things alphabetically. And if I actually found this, I went back to look for this article, and I found it under the letter C. And I probably was looking for child abuse articles, and I found it under the letter C. I think it was under closer to crisis, like CR, for crisis. So understanding crisis. So if you want to take a look at that yourself, that's where I found that, www.childwelfare.gov. And so that's what we're going to continue on with this for this week, and then we'll finish it up because there were just a couple more pieces to it that I thought were really important to bring up. And this is not a professional show. I don't hold any professional counseling certificates or anything like that. It's not meant to replace professional help, and please listen at your own discretion. I cover topics of abuse, and so it's very sensitive. So if you're not in a safe place and you just feel like the topic's going to bother you, please turn the show off because you won't be hurting my feelings. It's your safety and your discretion, so please listen at your own discretion. And also, young people, I fight for child rights. That's what I'm doing. I spend all my spare time fighting for child rights, and because I have to work full-time, otherwise that's what I'd be doing full-time. You have to be safe online, and so I think young people should find someone that they trust, an older person, an adult, someone who's a mentor, a parent, a parent or a caregiver, someone who can listen to the show with you just to make sure it's something that you should be listening to. I think you should do that with just about everything you do online because there's a lot of crazy people out there looking to get a hold of children. And so really I'm just here to be a voice of warning because honestly, kids, you have to be really careful. There's a lot of crazy people out there. I know myself, I experienced quite a few crazy people in my lifetime. And so you want to be really careful about what you're doing online and get some help with this. Make sure that somebody knows you're listening to this show, and this way they can help you with questions if you have questions, and they can sort of just see if it's something that you should be listening to. I think it's so important. And so we have about 10 minutes, and we'll get right into this article here. This part of it is called Understanding Special Family Situations, and they take a look at marital conflict, step-parenting conflict. This is when there's been abuse reported and they go into the home. This is what like a CPS worker would have to be looking out for, which would be special family situations, marital conflict, step-parenting conflict, unprepared for parenthood, and substance abuse, spouse abuse, right? This is things they would have to be looking for. Mental illness, dual diagnosis, poverty, and then the summary. So that's what we're going to look at this week. And then they have the termination and follow-up services. And so I'm just reading right from that page, and you can follow along there if you want to. It's a little tricky bringing up this article, like I said, but you can find it in I'm not sure if I can actually bring up the link, but you can find it at www.childwelfare.gov, the Child Welfare Information Gateway. And so the introduction, because of specific stressors, assessment of a few special family situations deserves discussion. Crisis workers need to be especially sensitive to how child maltreatment may occur in response to divorce, step-family, single-parent family, drug-dependent and drug-related, spouse abuse, mental illness, dual-diagnosed, and poverty-induced crisis. See, so many things they have to take a look at if they go in because there has been a report of abuse, child abuse or maltreatment in the home. They have to be especially on the lookout for these special family situations, right? Because this would be part of obviously the cause, or most of the cause for the abuse, right? Marital conflict, custody disputes, and unresolved issues from divorce, along with the child's confusion and desire for both parents to be with them, set the stage for children to be used as pawns. Consequently, the crisis worker must be diligent in monitoring his or her feelings and in neither identifying with or rejecting any family member. This is particularly true for one with similar experiences in his or her own past or a current marital conflict. The same holds true for a crisis worker who was in a divorced family as a child. So they can't kind of use their own judgments on people. They have to look at it as a third party, you know. Marital separation is said to be more painful than the death of a spouse. I've heard that. The grieving process related to the separation and loss needs to be encouraged by crisis workers. Social involvement with other people is a benefit after separation in order to move outside one's sense of loss and feeling of poor self-worth. And occasionally, bitter ex-spouses may become vindictive, or in their wish to find flaws in the ex-mate may believe that sexual or physical abuse of a child is occurring when it is not. On the other hand, crisis workers must consider whether abuse has occurred, even when investigative workers have indicated that accusations are unfounded. In the face of rejection and unmet emotional needs, a parent may sexually abuse a child. The crisis worker can get the most objective information from children by listening and observing family interactions over extended periods of time. Contrary to the predicament of the investigative worker, who is often pushed for time, the CPS crisis worker is in a perfect position to observe attentively for hours. And children's behaviors and their parents' attitudes and behaviors can give critical information for evaluation by the crisis worker. Objective but thorough exploration of abuse allegations can be reassuring to the accuser, the accused, and the child. So that's to do with marital conflict. And then they have here step-parenting conflict. In many instances, two families are able to merge quite successfully. Other families find the merger more difficult. Some families are prone to have conflicts around who has the right to discipline. Lack of agreement may result in conflict between the adults and possibly displacement of anger throughout the family. And youth in these families may learn to be manipulative if adults cannot come to a consistent, reasonable, mutually agreeable disciplinary approach. Crisis workers must assess what may be happening in the family to establish more positive alliances among family members. Crisis workers should listen and observe for long periods of time, or for long time periods, while maintaining objectivity. For instance, is a child acting out as a response to feeling rejected by the step-parent? Children who feel unwanted are likely to act out. Discipline of the children may require special attention and suggestions by the crisis worker. In fact, this is a good way to gain immediate credibility regarding professional knowledge while providing emotional relief for the parents and children who are feeling desperate because of ineffective disciplinary techniques. For instance, a step-parent may feel unable to control the child and therefore ready to give up. the crisis worker can say, what if we work together to find effective ways to discipline so you can be the parent you want to be? In addition, children in stepfamilies may blame themselves for the continuing arguments between the birth parents. Both parents may also attempt to use the children as pawns or messengers, and some children may perceive that a parent is more loving and solicitous with step-siblings than with them. And if so, every effort must be made to apply the same rules, rewards, and responsibilities with all the children. Another area of conflict arises when each side of the step-family feels its traditions or ways of doing things are best. And there may be arguments over what is right or wrong, and the family may need to realize that there are many more different ways to accomplish desirable ends with a family. Respect for each other's feelings or traditions is more desirable than rigid adherence to one tradition. And role strain in step-parents may also be evident, especially when there is lack of clarity in spousal expectations. And step-parents need to be encouraged not to avoid conflict, but instead to seek social support, learn to ventilate but manage their emotions, and realize that many role stresses are time limited. Rather than withdrawing from the family, it is better for the adults to ventilate feelings with each other and get their roles clarified. It's quite interesting, really. I don't know what that would be like because I didn't grow up with step family. Like our parents stayed together, which really was kind of a crazy thing that they did, but would have been okay had they gotten some help. But they stayed in this terrible marriage that they weren't happy in, and of course it just made the rest of us miserable. And they didn't have good. They really didn't know how to properly discipline their children, and they were miserable people to each other. So it's quite hard. But I can't imagine, the step-parenting thing. I know that must be hard on people. I had friends who grew up with step-parents and other step-kids at home, and there was. I used to kind of see that they used to have a little bit of problems with that kind of stuff. Some of my friends when they were growing up, and so I could see how that could happen totally. And now we had about 2 minutes left. Tomorrow we'll look at unprepared for parenthood and also substance abuse and spouse abuse if we have time, and that's what we'll continue on with. So I'm so glad you could be here. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and you can go and check out their website at www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. I've typed in .org and it gets you there. They have some great information on there regarding child abuse. What is child abuse? All the different kinds of child abuse. Signs and symptoms. How to report child abuse. So important. We have Dreamcatchers Talk Radio Tuesday nights at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time with best-selling author and president of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, Donna Shear. She is the host, and I am co-hosting that show for now. And it's just such an honor, and it's just so awesome to be able to do that. And some great information we're getting out to people, and I hope you can tune in and listen. You can get there by going to Blog Talk Radio and looking for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, or you can go right to the link, which I'll give you right now, www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers. So it's www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers, and that'll take you right to our Dreamcatchers Talk Radio page. So yeah, we're on for half an hour tomorrow. Next month, April, we're actually going to start an hour-long show, and it's going to be a little bit better time in the evening, Eastern Standard Time. We're going to try to make it a little bit better for people to listen to as far as time goes, and we're going to have it for an hour because the half an hour is not enough time to really cover the different things that we need to cover. And so I really hope you can tune into that. And there's going to be, eventually we're hoping to have all kinds of guests on there and other co-hosts as well, and people just really wanting to get involved, to raise awareness, promote, awareness, education, and prevention of child abuse. So important. And I have a book out. It's called A Life of Death, The Redemption, and that's a true story. That's my story. And the Dreamcatchers, Donna Shear, the president of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and Sandra Dawn Potter, the CEO and founder of Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, have published my book under Shear and Potter Books at Lulu. You can find it at Lulu right now, but it'll soon be available at Amazon and also Barnes & Noble. And every single dollar from that book sold is going to Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, not to me, because I want that book to help stop child abuse. That's the whole purpose for me to break the silence, was to get my story out and by these guys publishing my book and allowing that to happen, that money should go to Dreamcatchers for Abused Children to help promote awareness, education, prevention of child abuse, and actually to help stop child abuse. So I don't want the money for that book. I really want that money to go to help stop child abuse. So I hope you will pick up my story because it's dedicated to my two brothers who are now gone. One committed suicide and the other one died of a drug overdose in a shelter here in Calgary. And that story really is to be their voice. Had I not spoken out, never said anything, and I went to my grave, no one would have known the abuse that they suffered or that I suffered. So I wanted to be a voice for them and dedicate the book to them because they went to their graves and everybody just, they would have gone to their graves and nobody would have known how they were treated. And so I'm so glad to be able to stand up for my brothers and be their voice. So I hope you will pick up that book. And so, get a hold of me if you need anything, everybody. And I'll be back on tonight, 9:30 Mountain Standard Time. Child abuse prevention and human rights abuse prevention is up to us. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. And I really appreciate your friendship so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.